With that down, let's move on to our fifth and final main topic today. And our fifth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Ed Doskov, who writes, "Hey, John, big fan from Russia." All right, Ed, thanks for sending that in, man. Do you think James Gunn's The Suicide Squad will also be rated R as Harley Quinn movie? Because before the announcement of Harley Quinn movie rating, I saw rumors floating around that both movies will be rated R, and one turned out to be true. What do you think of this? Thanks. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, you're absolutely right. There have been whispers and rumors and speculations for a long time that Suicide Squad, the new one under James Gunn, would be rated R. Now, it's important to point out here, though, that has not been confirmed by anybody. I do not believe there has ever been an official word that came from James Gunn or the studio to confirm that this movie will be rated R. I think this raises two questions, Rob. And of course, as Ed so accurately pointed out, the same rumors floated about Harley Quinn for a long time, and that did turn out to be true, even though Harley Quinn didn't need to be an R-rated movie. Like, once you see Harley Quinn, you realize this didn't need to be rated R anyway, but they did go for the R rating. I think this raises two distinctly unique questions. Number one is, will Suicide Squad be rated R? And then number two, should it be rated R? Let's look at the first question initially. Will James Gunn's Suicide Squad be rated R? I have a feeling it will be, for a couple of different reasons. One, I think one of the reasons Warner Brothers so actively went out and tried to recruit James Gunn was under the idea and belief that just let James Gunn go balls to the wall and do whatever he wants to do. And in that environment, I think there's probably a pretty decent chance that he could want to go the R-rated route, Rob. I think there's a good chance for that. Also, like Ed wrote, those rumors about Suicide Squad seem to go hand in hand with Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn did end up being R-rated, so there's that as well. On top of all that, Warner Brothers seems to be in an odd mindset that R equals better, which is totally BS. That's totally wrong thinking. R is great if you have a film that really requires an R. Otherwise, you don't need it. However, they seem to be R happy at the moment. And that's perfectly fine. Worked great for Joker. Didn't work so great for Harley Quinn. But whatever. So I personally think, and again, there's no backing this up, I just personally think that the new Suicide Squad will be rated R. Might not be, but I'm thinking it will be. But then, Rob, comes the second question. Should it be rated R? I'm not so convinced about that. I mean, obviously, making something rated R does not equal box office gold. We just saw that. It can work for the appropriate movie, but if it's not the appropriate movie, it makes no difference. So I just don't know that there's a need. James Gunn was able to do amazing, remarkable things with Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was very comfortably nested in, very cozy in a PG-13 rating. And I think he's great at that, and there's no reason not to. But, Rob, it all comes down to, what does he have in mind for this movie? Does he want this movie to have a lot of brains bursting out of heads and falling on the floor? Does he want to have some nudity? Does he want to have some sex? Does he want to do all that? If he does, well then yeah, you kind of got to go R-rated. But is it necessary? I don't know. I mean, Dark Knight didn't need to be rated R. I mean, the greatest comic book films of all time didn't need to be rated R. The first Suicide Squad, which was admittedly a hot mess, but it made a hell of a lot of money, didn't need to be rated R. So I'm going to say I think the jury's out about whether or not this movie should be rated R, but I think it will be. Rob, when you look at those two questions, will it and should it, how do you approach them?
Well, I've never thought that a rating necessarily has anything to do with the quality or the success of a film. I think a filmmaker should be able to make the film they want to make as long as they're in agreement with the studio, and then the finished film is then sent off for a rating. Jaws was PG-13, and or PG, there was no PG-13 rating when it came out. When Jaws came out, it was PG. It was one of the most terrifying. I think I was 8. I saw it in the theater when I was 8, and it was one of the scariest things I'd ever seen. I didn't think about the rating. I just thought about Jaws. And if Suicide Squad, if it lends itself to an R rating, if the harder edge is better for the movie, if language and violence I mean, it is called Suicide Squad after all. I want something. I want something that's hard hitting. I want it to be in my face. I want to see a bunch of bad dudes and dudettes brought together to kick some ass. I want violence. You know, I don't know if sex belongs in it, but why not? Bring on the filthy. And if it demands an R rating, I hope it has one. But what I really want is a great movie. And I think as long as it's a great movie first, whether it's rated PG, PG-13, or R, it doesn't really matter. I really want the film to be terrific, first and foremost. Great characters, a great story, wildly entertaining, the comedy and action stylings of James Gunn, most of all. And if that demands an R rating, so be it. We know he can make. Super was a very R-rated movie. Slither was a very R-rated movie. But Guardians of the Galaxy wasn't, nor did it need to be. And I think that either way, James Gunn, I trust in Gunn. You put a gun in a studio's hand and they'll pull that trigger.
Here's my fear. And I'm not saying this is happening. I'm just saying this is what I worry about. I worry that the studio tries to coerce James Gunn and force him to make it R-rated. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about James Gunn coming up with a great movie, a great fun idea, a great movie that he thinks is going to be satisfying for the audience, fun for everybody, make a lot of money, and then have the studio come to him and go, you know, James, the kiddies love R. The kiddies love R, James. You should put some more F-bombs in there just for the hell of it. Put some more blood into the hell of it. Show an ass just for the hell of it. Go make it rated R. And James Gunn going, but that's not what I planned. I've planned this movie. This is the tone of my movie. Yeah, but the kiddies love R. Just go ahead and make it R. And they've kind of maybe coerce him into making it R, because I'll tell you what, that is the feeling I got from Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey. That there was like no universe that movie needed to be rated R. There's just a couple of minor tweaks they would have needed to have made it for that to fall comfortably into PG-13. But I felt like it was their mandate to make it R, because R is cool. And listen, when the studio says something is cool, that makes it stop being cool. And, you know, and I just worry that they might try to coerce James Gunn into doing that. At the same time, the one protection against that is that James Gunn had his choice to go anywhere he wanted. When he became a free agent, he literally had every studio lining up making him offers. So I have a feeling he probably had a lot of control and probably put some safeguards in saying, I get to decide what movie I'm making and how I'm going to make it. So maybe that protects it from itself. But I don't know. That's going to be the one thing I'm worried about, is that James Gunn doesn't make the movie that he actually wants to make. But I think there's a lot of reasons to believe he will. Question is, guys, what do you think about that? And how would you answer those two questions? Number one, do you think that Suicide Squad, James Gunn's version, will be rated R? Number two, do you think it needs to be? Again, it's hard to answer when we don't know what movie he's making, but still, what do you speculate? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.